There is a mower in a garage right now that its owner had already given up on. 20 years old. Would not start without a fight. Ran rough when it finally caught. Smoked on the first pull every spring. The owner had already priced the replacements. $300 for a cheap one, $400 for something halfway decent. The credit card was practically out of the wallet. Then a mechanic looked at it. No rebuild, no overhaul, no expensive parts, no machine work. 5 specific fixes, done in a specific order. Total cost, $32. And the machine that would not start now catches on the second pull and cuts cleaner than machines half its age. Here is the part that should stop you cold. Everybody assumes a mower dies in the metal. Worn out cylinder, tired crankshaft, done. So they drag it to the curb and drive to the store and buy the same budget machine all over again. The metal is almost never the problem. Here is the number that proves it. A small engine repair shop earns roughly half of its entire yearly revenue on one single job, cleaning or replacing carburetors that got gummed up by old fuel. Half. And more than 70% of every no-start a shop sees is fuel-related, not mechanical. That is where these machines actually die. Not in the iron, in the passages, the settings, and the supply. Deposits, clogs, and adjustments that quietly drifted out of spec. Clear the deposits, feed it clean air and clean oil. Correct what wandered, and an old engine does not remember being old. Because here is the thing about a 20-year-old engine that most people never hear. It is often easier to bring back to like new than a 3-year-old machine that has been neglected. The reason is what these engines are made of. Cast iron cylinder walls, a machine steel crankshaft, hardened valve seats. That metal does not wear out dramatically under normal homeowner use. It just accumulates deposits and gets starved of clean air and clean fuel. The metal underneath the gunk is frequently as good as the day it was built. So today I am counting down all 5 fixes the mechanic used. Number 5 down to number 1. In order, because the order is the entire game. Do them out of sequence, and you will fix one problem while quietly creating the next one. And number 1 is the fix that actually brings a dead machine back to life. The one almost nobody has ever heard described properly. Let's count down. Number 5. The fix everyone skips, because everyone assumes they already understand it. The fuel line. Boring. $2 of rubber. Nobody ever checks it. That is exactly why it is on this list. Fuel lines on small engines are made of rubber, and rubber ages. It hardens. It grows micro cracks on the outside that stay completely invisible until fuel is moving under pressure, and those cracks open just enough to let air bleed into the line. And it gets worse from the inside, because the ethanol in modern pump gas swells rubber and then hardens it, collapsing the line internally into a partial restriction you cannot see from the outside at all. Ethanol blended fuel can start breaking down in as little as 30 days, and it attacks the rubber the whole time it sits there. So the engine surges at high throttle, and what gets blamed? The carburetor. Always the carburetor. The line never gets touched. Here is the mechanic's check, and it takes 2 minutes. Pull the fuel line off the carburetor inlet. Hold the open end over a container. Crack the fuel valve, or pop the cap to equalize the tank pressure. Fuel should pour out in a steady, confident stream. If it only drips or trickles, the line is restricted, or the little inline fuel filter that many engines carry between the tank and the carb is clogged solid. A fuel filter runs $1 to $3. Fuel line is $1 or $2 a foot, cut to length. 15 minutes for both. It is the last thing anybody checks and the first thing they should. Because everything the other 4 fixes are about to restore has to travel through this one line. A perfectly clean carburetor fed by a collapsed line runs at maybe 90%, and 90% fuel flow feels a whole lot worse than it sounds. Fix the supply first, so the restoration you are about to do actually gets fed. And that supply runs straight into number 4, the fix whose timing traps almost everyone. Number 4, the one that gets replaced instead of cleaned, and the timing mistake that ruins the whole repair. The air filter. Everyone knows filters get replaced. Here is what almost nobody gets right. When? First, the why. The air filter is the engine's only line of defense against the fine grit that grinds down a cylinder over time. And a paper filter, cleaned with compressed air, is finished. The air pressure blows out its internal structure and lets particles march straight through, even when the filter still looks perfectly fine to your eye. $3 to $8 for a fresh one at the start of every season is the cheapest engine insurance that exists on the planet. Then the step almost nobody does. If your filter has a foam pre-cleaner wrapped around it, and most good ones do, oil it before you install it. A few drops of clean engine oil, worked through the foam by hand until it is spread evenly through the whole element. Here is why it matters. A dry foam element bounces particles off its fibers on contact. An oiled one traps them by adhesion, the way flypaper works. That difference in filtration is real and measurable, and on an engine you are restoring for the long haul, it is the difference between getting one more season and getting 10. Now the trap, the timing. The air filter goes back on after the carburetor is cleaned. Never before. Here is what happens if you get it backward. You clean the carb, then bolt the old clogged filter back on. Now the freshly cleaned carb is metering fuel for an airflow it is not actually getting, because the restricted filter is choking the air supply. The engine runs rich. And that fresh spark plug you are about to install turns sooty and black within 2 mowing sessions, and you will swear the carburetor cleaning was done wrong. It wasn't. The filter order was. Carburetor first, filter second. Reverse it, and you sabotage your own work. And speaking of that spark plug, number 3 isn't really about the plug at all. It is about what the plug is desperately trying to tell you before you throw it away. Number 3, the plug reads the engine for free, if you look before you toss it. Everyone replaces the spark plug. Almost nobody reads it first. That old plug is a free diagnostic report on the entire engine, and most people throw the report in the trash without opening it. Pull the old plug before you replace it, and look hard at the tip. A light tan or gray deposit is a healthy engine running right. Replace it and move on. A black, sooty, dry deposit means the engine has been running rich. Too much fuel or not enough air, which tells you the filter needs attention before that new plug will stay clean. A wet, oily deposit means oil is sneaking past the piston rings or the valve seals into the combustion chamber. A bigger problem that points straight at number 2 on this list. A white or chalky deposit means it has been running lean, not enough fuel for the air it is getting, which tells you the carburetor was exactly the right place to start. Read it, then replace it. $3 to $6, 5 minutes. But here is where people quietly wreck the whole repair without knowing it, the gap. On most small engine plugs, the gap is 30,000ths of an inch, 0.030. A $2 feeler gauge confirms it before the plug ever goes in. Install a plug at the wrong gap, and it will not light the fuel-air mixture cleanly. You get hard starting and misfire under load, and you will conclude the carb wasn't cleaned well enough. It was. The gap was wrong the whole time. Then torque it to finger tight plus a quarter turn, no more than that. Over-torque a plug and you strip the soft aluminum threads right out of the cylinder head, and now you have a genuinely expensive problem where you used to have a $5 one. The plug should come out when you want it to, not when the aluminum finally gives up. And that oily plug reading I mentioned, that is the exact clue that drags us straight to number 2, the fix that surprises people more than any other on this list. Number 2, the adjustment most homeowners have never even heard of. It hands back the compression. Valve clearance. Not difficult, just unknown. And it is the single most neglected adjustment on any small engine that has piled up real hours. Every 4-stroke engine has an intake valve that lets the fuel-air mixture in, and an exhaust valve that lets the burned gases out. Each one is opened by a cam lobe pushing on a tappet, which pushes on the valve stem. The tiny gap in that chain, between the tappet and the stem, is the valve clearance. It is set at the factory to a precise spec. On most Briggs and comparable engines, the intake runs about 3 to 5 thousandths of an inch, and the exhaust a hair wider, around 5 to 7 thousandths. because the exhaust valve runs hotter and expands more. Your exact numbers are in the manual for your engine. Here's what hundreds of hours do to that gap. The valve seat slowly wears. The valve sinks a fraction deeper into it as the seating surface wears in. The clearance closes up, and eventually the tappet is holding the valve open a hair even when it is supposed to be shut tight, which means the valve can no longer seal the combustion chamber. Compression drops, power fades, it runs rough. It starts hard on a cold morning. So the owner tries a new plug, then a carburetor, cleaning. And the real culprit the entire time was a clearance gap that had quietly closed to almost nothing. The fix. Pull the valve cover, a bolt or two on most engines. Bring the piston to a 1/4 inch past top dead center on the compression stroke, so both valves are closed and the rockers are just loose. Check each gap with a feeler gauge. If it is tight, loosen the lock nut and open it back to spec. One important caution. A lot of newer engines use hydraulic lifters that adjust themselves. Check the manual first, and if yours is hydraulic, skip this step entirely, because there is nothing to set. But if it uses mechanical lifters with a listed clearance, this is the one adjustment that hands the engine its lost compression right back. After this adjustment, the machine that would not start on a cold morning starts on the second pull. That is the fix that makes people say the old mower runs better than it did new. It does not run better than new. It runs exactly as well as new, because it is finally set to the same specification it left the factory with. But none of it holds if number 1 is still clogged, because number 1 is where these machines actually die, and it is the reason this whole video exists. Number 1, the carburetor. Where half of all these engines die, and the fix costs $8. This is the one. This is the half of a shop's revenue fix. This is the reason your machine will not start. The carburetor's whole job is to meter fuel and mix it with air in exactly the right ratio before it enters the engine. It is a fist-sized piece of aluminum, threaded with passages measured in fractions of a millimeter. And here is what kills it. Ethanol-blended fuel, left to sit for weeks or months, evaporates and degrades into a thick, sticky varnish. That varnish coats the float bowl and clogs the tiny jets and ports. The engine runs lean, surges, stalls under load, or simply refuses to start at all. This is the number 1, "My mower won't start in spring," call every shop in the country gets, every single year. Most owners' answer is to replace the whole carburetor. The mechanic's answer is to clean it for $8. Pull the carb, 2 bolts and a fuel line on most walk-behind engines. Set those mounting bolts somewhere they physically cannot roll away and vanish. Drop the float bowl, 1 bolt underneath it. Pour out the old fuel. Inside you will see the main jet, a small brass fitting with a precisely drilled hole through it. And that hole is exactly where the varnish collects first. A carburetor rebuild kit costs $8 to $15 at any hardware store. It gives you new gaskets, a new needle, a new seat, and sometimes a new float. Buy it for your specific engine's model number, which is on the spec tag on the engine itself, not the brand name on the mower deck. Soak every metal part in fresh carburetor cleaner for 45 minutes to an hour. Severe varnish can take an overnight soak. Then clear every passage and jet hole with compressed air or a thin wire. A straightened paper clip or a stripped bread tie wire works better than spray alone on hardened deposits. Rinse it, dry it, install the fresh gaskets and needle seat from the kit, reassemble, and reinstall. The engine that could not hold a run for 30 seconds on its own fuel now runs clean. And if the varnish is so far gone that the soak simply will not clear it, a replacement carburetor runs $12 to $40, still less than a single shop diagnostic fee. But soak first. Replace only if the soak genuinely fails. That is number 1. That is the fix that raises the dead. So here is the complete restoration. 5 fixes, in the exact order they need to happen. Do not skip a step. Do not change the order. Number 1, soak the carburetor with a rebuild kit. $8 to $15. That is where the engine actually died. Number 2, check and adjust the valve clearance on mechanical lifter engines. $0. That is your compression back. Number 3, Read the old plug, then gap and install a fresh one. $3 to $6. That is your free diagnosis. Number 4. Fresh air filter with an oiled foam pre-cleaner, installed after the carb work. $3 to $8. That is your protection. Number 5. Inspect and replace the fuel line and inline filter. $2 to $5. That is your clean supply. Total at the high end, $32. Less than the diagnostic fee alone at most small engine shops. Here's the truth. The mower aisle will never say out loud. A restored machine built from real metal in 1995 beats a brand new one built to a budget price in 2025. The metal is the same, the deposits are gone, the settings are back to spec. That is all it ever took. $32 and the right order.